I won't be opening the council meeting, but I'll open the formalities here today. And as normal on the agenda, the first is our open forum, which anyone, if you make it, fill in the form. If you haven't done one yet, if you want to speak, you have 3 minutes to speak on the issue. And if we can answer it, we'll answer it. If not, we'll have to take it on board. Some of it will be comments, which will probably be for future decisions of council. I've got Rod Chalmers.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, councillors. I would like to pass a few comments on agenda item 8.1 up for discussion this evening. It would have been helpful if the proposer of the motion had given the general public more information as to why it is thought necessary to have this consultative committee, how it will be formed, who will be on it, and the powers of influence it would expect to have. I'm not in favour of this motion as it stands, but surprisingly, neither am I against it. I would just like councillors to give a great deal of motion. Council needs another formalised committee that could further impede the passage of development applications. As can be seen in the agenda, we have a plethora of committees for almost every eventuality. A well-regulated and consultative method of bringing matters to the attention of our ratepayers, and we are, after all, a community of equals, with everyone given the opportunity to communicate their opinions on council decisions that affect them. I worry that this motion is a progressive step that was not signalled by any of the candidates at our recent elections. Cootamundra-Gundagai Council is a body that has enshrined fairness and inclusion in its many policies, and I can see the possible ramifications that might develop from the success of this motion, insofar that it could be seen to enhance the influence of one group of residents over the majority. The motion is certainly a bold step and should be well considered, because as a council, under our previous general managers, we did have a reputation of finding reasons not to do things. And if we keep doing the same old things in the same old ways, we will get the same old results. I believe the decision on this motion needs some more thought and at least some consultation with the general community, because it has been pointed out in the preamble to this motion, our strategic plan must be based on social justice principles of access, equity and participation and rights for all. Thank you.
Thank you, Rod. No doubt that'll be discussed when we get to the 8.1, so there's no need to any comments now, but thank you. Next up is Lawrence Byron.
Hi all, you don't know me, my name's Lawrence Byron. I live in Gundagai, Dorr Street. I'm here to ask for some sort of high-level council intervention in environmental and management issues regarding staff management. I'd like to thank Ab, Penny and Lee for trying to move some issues forward for me, but I'm still at a loggerhead with my issues. The issues have started with Dorr Street. There's a serious stormwater issue, and it is causing significant property damage. Here I have pages of damage across my street and around the corner and extensively around the town. And it's not just an issue for my property, it's also an elderly lady who lives next door to me, and that's not taken in regard. It's also flooding neighbours down the street. I think this creates a liability risk for council in the state of the stormwater system for pedestrians, to vehicles, and all sorts of manners, and also the environment. I'll just quickly show you some of the photos. Alan has visited me once, and when I spoke to him, I have a very clear recollection when he saw that the stormwaters were clogged and there was no sort of structure to hold water. He said, I have sent 28 letters about this in the last 12 months. And the action that I have received is absolutely abysmal. The last time I had any communication from council management was on the 30th of June. And I'll just read this out. Thank you for your communication of the 12th. When you lodged a code of conduct complaint against the Director Operations Ray Graham. Mr. Graham was interviewed regarding the complaint and reminded of his obligation to the community and to the environment. Now, to me, to have a senior operations manager to have to be reminded of his obligations to the community and to the environment is a very, very serious.
Can I just jump in there, mate? Just some of the things you're saying, you might be a little bit careful because this meeting is being live streamed. I just want to let you know that. That was all.
Well, I'm just reading it straight from here. The subject of the complaint has not been rectified. However, I believe the reason for the code of conduct has been addressed. So that was the last time I've heard any communication about the issue. I have rang, emailed numerous times to Alan to get some sort of response. I have never received any sort of response from him. And also a code of conduct allegation was put to regarding the former administrator to the Office of Local Government. All the documentation that I have sent out, I have then cross-referenced against the Protection of the Environment Act and the Local Government Act. Particularly with the Local Government Act, there are some serious points in here regarding the protection of the environment. Now, one of the main issues I have is that a council is a reporting agency of, so you have the EPA and the council is a reporting agency. So if you have an issue with the environment and there's flooding or coming from a certain point, it's up to the council to take that action. Now, I don't feel like that has been taken. And under the Act, a polluter is someone who lets water or sediment come down into a position to someone else's position. And I'll be careful what I say, but you have to be very clear within that Act. There are serious fines in there for not acting under the appropriately under the Act. What I'm seeking is very high level intervention in this where I can put my concerns out clearly to the council. I mean, I can't do it now, but the situation to me is totally out of control.
Yeah, we are limited by time, as I said before, but I think we understand where you're coming from. I do, and I know Alan and Ray and some of the other councillors. I will, the other day on, I think it was the Thursday before the torrential rain, I went and had a look at it with you, and I said, you know, we could see one drain had silted up a lot, which I know Kevin Britt and the crew, and the backhoe driver, they dropped their tools and went up and dug that drain deeper. And I did, when that torrential rain was on, I did drive around past there a couple of times. You know, that was one of them, one in how many years, whatever, you know. I know at home it came through our garage and our laundry, and if you drove around town, unfortunately, we're on a hill, and a lot of, if you're a dirt drive, you got badly washed. But so I did go and have a look at the issue, but I thought that drain was working fairly well from my point of view.
I'll just clarify for that. That drain collapsed twice, and I had to get them repaired to that. I don't see how that meets any sort of engineering structure. And it's not just my situation. It's further up the hill, right down to the end of the street. Now, to me, no one's taken responsibility for this. Alan or Ray have not taken responsibility for this, or looking around the town. I can't see what's meant to happen.
Yeah. Look, the big thing is, I suppose, stormwaters were put in years ago. Like, for example, we've just done the main street, and they renewed all the stormwaters. And in that torrential flood, it would have only went up that far on the rise and in the drains. But I understand, like, wherever you are, there's old stormwater. Yeah, so look, we know the problem. I might even make a time with you for tomorrow or the next day. I'll have your auntie and come round and just let me know where they collapse those drains.
Okay, well, I think there's a lot more serious issues than just my property that I don't think the council is addressing on any level.
I'll speak to you about just coming and have a look anyway where it collapsed, Laurie. Thank you. Gordon Lindley.
Thank you, Mr Mayor and councillors. I just want to speak on the development at Coolac. Just may I say, in the development plan, I haven't seen one thing mentioned, the effect it's going to have on the Gundagai township. It's all about what's going to happen with Cootamundra employment and what's going to happen with Coolac. Not one mention of the Gundagai. My whole argument is that you're going to have 3 service centres within 20 kilometres. Now, that is impossible to keep those 3 service centres going. I don't care what anybody says. If you go down the highway and say looking from Melbourne to Gundagai, there's 1 service centre between Gundagai and Albury. From Albury to Melbourne, there's 4 service centres. You go from Coolac to Sydney, there's 1 at Yass, there's 1 at Goulburn, and there's 3 from Goulburn to Sydney. And we're going to have 3 within 20 k's. Now, I think no one's thought about the small business in Gundagai. Not one mentioned word about the effect it will have, and it will have huge effects on them. And these are the people that we rely on, the same as Cootamundra does. If we want a donation for our football club, or we want them to sponsor something, or we want something for schools. I went to a school function the other day. There was 8 awards, and all those awards came out of the main street of Gundagai. They didn't come from the Shell. They don't come from BP, whoever it may be down the highway. There's these great big developers. So I really think you've got to look at this very seriously. We've already lost a small business in Gundagai the other day. 8 jobs are gone. That business last year donated $80,000 to the town, $80,000 to the town to sponsor and help schools, football clubs, rodeo clubs, race clubs, you name it. They did that. And that effect of that business, it means $50 million in the next 12 years to Gundagai. And he was turned down on the effects of what he will have on the underground water. That was the main point I read in the paper. Are we going to look at effects, what this is going to have on the underground water if we put tanks down, carrying millions and millions of gallons of fuel? If there's one leak, the creek is only, I looked the other day, if it's 600 metres away from this development, that's as far as it'll be. So I think you people are sitting here, and we have got all our governments, the federal and the state, saying that we must look after small business. Well, I think it's your people to start looking after small businesses, because I'll be truthful, Gundagai will become a ghost town if you let put 3 there, and that is true. I know you say that it means jobs and everything else, but all you're going to do is shift jobs, because the simple reason there's only a certain amount of people on the highway, so you're only going to shift 1 job to another place. And they're struggling. These people on these services are struggling to get people to work anyway. So that's all you're going to do. So over your Christmas period, have a little bit of a think, and think about the small businesses and do something about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Gordon. That development will be discussed further through the evening. I do agree with you. Small businesses are a very integral part of the economy of small towns all over Australia. But we will be discussing that development later. But thanks, Gordon, for your input. Caroline Kennedy.
Mr Mayor, councillors, my name is Caroline Kennedy, and as a concerned ratepayer and a voter, I would like to ask 3 questions, all related to the SRGP meeting held at Gundagai Services Club on Thursday. Council issued a press release 3 days before the panel hearing of the headline quoting. Council supports Borough Road landfill. Why did the council's own legal mandated assessment report to the panel recommend the refusal for the DA? That's number one.
Can I just say something there, Carol? I think any council in Australia would support any business for economic benefit. You've got to understand the word that's in that first line in that. The general manager was asked about the economic benefit to Gundagai, and he said, yes, there is an economic benefit to Gundagai in that press release. But if you went on and read the second line, it said, but council will abide by the ruling of the EPA. But it's like any business. It's like the Elders that I work for, or the farm businesses around town, or the fuel stations. It's wages into town. So any business is an economic benefit. And that's all council was saying about this, because Alan, he in the second line, he said, but basically it will be all up to the EPA if they cross their T's and dot their I's. But to me, the statement economic benefit, it was an economic benefit to Gundagai. So that's
No, we understood that. It just caused a lot of confusion as to first you were saying no and then you were saying yes.
Sorry, you're probably referring to a report the week before in the paper. It was a report done by a reporter from out of Gundagai and put in our Cootamundra-Gundagai Times, and they took parts out of our local planner's report on the landfill, and it showed our local planner didn't support the landfill, and that headline read on the Thursday, council doesn't support landfill. And as I said at the meeting that day, the whole 9 of us here, and the general manager and Chris and Ray and Phil and Kate, not one of us had an input to the decision of that landfill. It was our planner had to do his report. We never even seen the report. Then it went to EPA, and EPA did the report. And then it was up to the JRPP to make a decision on those reports. So as for council, we weren't involved at all, and the headlines the week before were related to a different issue.
So with that answer, so why did council ask the panel via a lawyer to delay its decision to provide the applicant more time to resolve its differences with the EPA?
Yeah, there was some issues. We like your group sought outside expressions of what they thought of the report, and our solicitors thought there was, if they were given time, they could address those. So it's only fair, I think, as we spoke about the economic benefit to Gundagai, if that business can prove that they can rectify those issues that the EPA and our town planner had, there's probably no reason why you shouldn't give him any more time, because in the long run it was a benefit to town. But unfortunately, we knew the result. It was all going to be hinged on the EPA and the JRPP on the day. But we thought if he could give him a fair chance, so he didn't have after getting the EPA report, there wasn't a lot of time for him to address those issues. So we just thought it was probably only fair to give him more time. But the JRPP went against that, what we thought and our idea. So we just got to abide by the decision of the JRPP on the day.
And question 3, how many ratepayers' dollars were spent on briefing the lawyer? Who briefed the lawyer? And did the elected councils endorse such a move?
Alan might answer that. I don't think the ratepayer dollar wasn't very big at all. And sorry, what was the last question? Last part of that?
Who briefed the lawyer, and did the elected council endorse such a move?
As I said, the elected council, the 9 council, we had nothing at all to do with anything to do with that the landfill or any decisions. It was just council. The operational part of council decided to cover their bases too, because this could end up in Land and Environment Court. You don't know. We just thought it would be good to give them a bit longer to see if they could rectify any of the EPA's concerns. But with cost, I think it was pretty minimal. Alan?
Yes, it wasn't. It was very small cost. But the reason for getting a legal opinion to request a deferral was in anticipation of the next stage of going to the Land and Environment Court and having our the natural justice principles properly adhered to, and the applicant being given sufficient time to address the issues. So it was purely a precautionary step to see, to make sure we're on high ground if the applicant takes it to the Land Environment Court. So it's a precautionary, quite a standard procedure. So.
Yeah, but we've been fighting this for over 3 years. So that to me is plenty of time to address the issues.
Well, that's not the council, Mr. Mayor. That's the concerned residents, and that's fine. That's your right. But we have to make sure that we protect the whole of council from any financial impost that might be caused through the Land Environment Court. We have to make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed before that happens.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. I think they've only got the 4. There was no one I've missed. Well, with that, I'll now open the meeting. I'll just do the acknowledgement of country. Council acknowledges the Wiradjuri people, the traditional custodians of the land at which the meeting is held, and pays its respect to elders, both past and present, of the Wiradjuri nation, and extends that respect to other Aboriginal people who are present. Apologies. There's no apologies. No disclosures of interest. Confirmations of the last meeting. Is there any questions on those minutes, or would someone like to move they be accepted? Oh, sorry. Sorry, Dave.
Through the Chair, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the financial management and presentation of the audited accounts, as those that are present at the meeting are aware, we asked some questions as to why our cost of audit has doubled through the fact that we've got to use the Auditor General. I've made some inquiries with a few of the neighbouring shires, and their costs didn't double. They've gone up, but they haven't doubled. So it's an area that, you know, $45,000 extra increase in costs is a lot of money, and you've really got to question the state government as to why they're putting this in place, and why local government should have to keep having more and more red tape when this government's clear mandate was to get rid of red tape.
I totally agree there, Dave, and that was a discussion just in casual talks at the conference last week. You know, why? So, you know, we've always had these reputable accountants that we've used, external accountants over the years, but now they're basically, it's like a double check. So, yeah, it certainly was an extra cost. I don't know what any, you know, we all know that, we saw that. Questions on that, on the minutes? Move Councillor Phillips, seconded Councillor Bowden. All in favour? Aye. Passed. Now, the mayoral minutes. Just, you can read, but just from on the 30th of November, Councillor Bowden represented council at the Multicultural New South Wales Regional Settlement Forum in Albury. We thank you for that, Lee. Councillor Bowden.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Could I just make an amendment to that, or an addition? It was Cootamundra-Gundagai, because they're all councils.
Oh.
So can we just add Gundagai there, please?
No worries.
I'm sorry if I left that out of the original report, but it needs to be there.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. Don't worry, I looked at it. No. Honest mistake. And then on the 30th also, Councillor Kelly represented council on behalf of at the lodgement of the development application for the proposed fire control centre to be built at Harden. Did you want to say anything on that? No. At the report there, it's sort of got very high-tech, modern centre. On the 30th also, we had the official opening of the pool at Gundagai with Steph Cook and Stuart Ayres. Went very well, and I thought he was very approachable, Stuart Ayres. So hopefully down the track, you know, when we want some money for sport, he'll be help us along. And then also he came to Cooter. Dennis, Scott, you met him here, Alan?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, so that was very good. They spoke about a couple of things there with the cricket club and the rugby union. Then we, myself, Councillor Palmer, Councillor Bowden and Councillor Sheen and Alan, the General Manager, Alan Dwyer, went to the conference in Sydney. Just while we're there, do you want the councillors that went want to do what they thought of it?
Yes, through the Mayor. It was a very good conference. I found it very productive. It was interesting to see that rural and regional councils dominated the conference. Inner city motions that were put forward, which really were anti-us, like kangaroo population control, the removal of firewood for heating houses, we were able to sort of completely dominate those motions. It also had a very good trade centre attached to it, trade exhibition. I visited quite a few of the sites that were quite interesting. There was the local government one, and Nita was there as well. I spoke with her. She was the woman that hit the ground running at Gundagai. Also, I spoke with the Camper Van Caravan Club. It's an organisation that are starting to actually develop sites. So I was interested because people have asked about free campsites. Now, if we provide land to this organisation, they actually develop it at no cost. They'll lease it off us to provide facilities for their members. So that was interesting. Also, a group that actually manufacture portable facilities, which was good because you can locate them. You have to plumb them in and everything, but you can locate them with a truck. And that's sort of just forward thinking, like if we get a rail trail going that we have to put facilities along or something like that. This was a way of doing that probably more cost effectively. And if it didn't work, you still got the facility that you could move. I spoke also with the NRL people and just threw up with them, you know, the possibility of getting an NRL game at Cootamundra, and they said, yeah, we can put that to the calendar as well. So overall, I found it a very good conference. It was also an election conference where the new board, new executive were elected, and I think it's going to be interesting in May, where Gundagai actually hosts the Women in Local Government Conference.
It's actually March.
March, is it?
March, yeah.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I will be at it. So that will be good. So Lee and I were speaking with the new president, Linda Scott, and said, you will be at that. So it will be good. Yeah, I found it very, very good.
Right. Councillor Bowden?
I'd just like to say one sentence. The women there were very well represented, spoke very well, and there were so many women mayors. I'll just say too, in relation to Mr. Chalmers' comment, I went to the Australian Local Women's Local Government Women's Association breakfast. The keynote speaker was Rhoda Roberts, who's in charge of First Nations programming for the Sydney Opera House, and she was talking about how councils can deal with the Aboriginal community. Thank you.
Councillor Palmer?
I think most things have been said, but as Charlie has, our Councillor Chair has discussed, it was blatantly obvious that regional communities are at loggerheads with metropolitan assets, and it did dominate the discussions there, and regional rural New South Wales held its head high, and yeah, it was a good conference.
Yeah, same here. I thought it was too. It's certainly a different conference to the last one I attended with Phil up in Coffs Harbour. You know, they had 200 Masons, only got through 72, and it was honestly, with the way the city councils went on then, it was a comedy act. But I think they've all settled down and realised, you know, we're there to be fair dinkum, the regional and rural, and they've come on board properly now, and I thought it was a very good conference also. And one of the big things about those conferences, it's not just the speakers and that they have. It's also mixing with other councils, GMs, councillors, mayors. Yeah, and they have the same issues, and you can learn how they fix theirs, or they learn off you. So it's sort of that side of it too that is really beneficial. But no, it was good. So that was from the 4th to the 6th. Then on the 7th,
Through the chair.
oh, sorry. Yeah.
Councillor
Sorry,
Sheehan, as he's commenting, does he mean that what we'd have similar to what Gundagai's got, so that the camper vans can come and yes? Okay, all right. So, yeah, so that would be a good idea, yes. So, yeah, so it could be good implemented and we can see how we go, yeah.
It, since it's been in Gundagai, it makes a difference. Like, you know, and it doesn't seem to affect the cross the road, but the camp at the tourist park or the river park. But, you know, there could be a dozen campers or more at times, 20, you know, and you'll see them, you'll know they're up the street, and you talk to the local business people, you know, they'll often come in and buy a jumper or a battery, or they'll be at the pub or the club for tea and that. But no, they're good. And honestly, they cost you nothing. You know, the RV site we've got is basically the mowing, you know. But no, they do work well. The 7th, Councillor Palmer went to thank the volunteers of the Bradman Museum, which was very good. And then on the 8th, the Friday, Councillor Palmer, he attended the TAFE presentations. I met in Gundagai with Chris Schilitza, the local area commander. I hadn't met before, so we had a sort of meet and greet session. Then at 2 o'clock, I had the Gundagai High School presentations. And then yesterday, myself and Councillor Palmer met with the Assistant New South Wales Assistant Commander for Police, Peter Barry. Have a talk to us about the new re-engineering, and basically he assured us what they've been saying, that there'll be no job losses, and they'll be basically more on the doing what we want them to do, is trying to fight crime. So well, I suppose we wait and see how that works out, but he was pretty confident it wouldn't have a great effect. Councillor Palmer, do you want to comment there at all?
I think you covered most things there. The re-engineering, as it's now tagged, happens to be the new buzzword apparently, but what it actually means for Cootamundra, will lose some of the positions at the top. We should see more uniforms, and we are going to see the head of a regional stock control division here in Cootamundra, I believe, is from his discussions.
Yep, he did say that too.
Yeah.
And then last night I attended the primary school speech night. So the only one I'm not attending in Gundagai is the school that my wife's principal at, which is tonight. So I'm in the good books. Now, the next, where are we? There's some paper. General Manager's report.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just before you go to that correspondence from Michael McCormack, have we submitted anything in relation to that?
That's what you were going to talk on that, Alan. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's due on the 19th, I think, isn't it? 19th of December?
I don't.
19th of December, and we're looking at some road works. Phil's putting together a program of the timber roads, timber haulage.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
We had in mind a vision to put together the timber haulage roads up the top end of Gundagai, because we'd done some significant work with the Softwoods Working Group in terms of putting a business case together for that. But after attending the Softwoods Working Group, it was felt that it would be, we've already put an application together as a group of councils for some state government funding at 100% funding, and they thought an application on our own for federal government money would weaken our case. So the other alternative that we looked at was the Adjunbilly Hill Road, where we've already got some significant the economic business case is already produced for that, and we've got all the material. With such a short time frame to get an application in, we're trying to I guess double our grant capacity in that particular road. So we'll put in an application for the Adjumilli Hill.
The other project we're looking at is the installation of solar panels wherever we can, but it's probably too short a time frame to get our quotations and everything, but we will get them in so that we're ready for the next round of application, because solar power is certainly the way to go.
Certainly is. Next one, mate, the Premier and Cabinet letter of offer.
Yeah, the next one is the 1.6 million that we were offered under round one of the Stronger Country Communities Fund projects, which we knew the money, the money was committed, and there's a similar amount of money committed for next year, which we haven't allocated projects for that yet, so that'll be something for council to consider a few months down the track, probably in conjunction with the budget, the management plan process. So obviously we'll accept that with thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Right. Well,
the first item on the General Manager's report deals with the development and building applications. The application's approved for out of both offices. The information's there for noting. We're happy to answer any questions there are. Or...
Any questions all on that report? So you'll move the recommendation, Councillor moved Councillor Phillips, second Councillor Palmer, all in favour? Aye. Carried.
The next one's a proposal to amend the LEP for the Yass Road corridor, which is before you. It's been talked about before, but
just if I could through the chair, seeing how I am a landowner in the area that's going to be zoned B6, do I need to declare a pecuniary interest and leave?
I guess you probably can. It'd be
I
safe.
think it'd be best, yeah.
I mean, it's probably regarded a bit the same as setting of rates and that sort of thing, because it's not site specific, but it's safe to do that.
Through the chair, if I may, I know when we were looking at LEP functions in the previous Cootamundra Council, we actually had to ask the Minister for approval to sit and make judgment on them, and we all had to fill out what properties we owned, and we had to send it off, and then the Minister gave us approvals that we could actually make judgment on. I don't know whether that's still current or not.
Well, that would certainly be the case if it affected more than a quorum, Mr. Mayor, which it could well do. But
Any other questions on that? The recommendation's been moved by Councillor Shane. Someone like to second it, Councillor Kelly. All in favour? Carried.
the next report refers to the the next item refers to a small building that council owns in Stock and Bingle. The recommendation there is that option 4 be endorsed, which was to proposal to redevelop the site in stages by offering the lease of the Millvale School and galvanised shed as is and constructing a double shop on the western side of the block as stage 1. This option seeks a similar end state as option 3, however would achieve this in stages, thereby allowing for existing revenue opportunities to be harnessed and to allow for a precautionary approach in investment. It's up for discussion or debate, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
Yep.
Councillor Bowden.
The recommendation is to go with option 4. There are 3 comments I'd like to make. The first is that I understand that we as a council are going to do a tour of the region at some time. I would actually like to defer the decision until we actually have a look at the building as it's coming up to Christmas, and there's talk of us doing the tour fairly soon. Then moving on from that, if we do discuss it, option 2 is a facelift, and option 3 is designing the whole of the area. That the buildings that exist already would need a facelift anyway, and that an architect or a designer would have to come in and do the plan of the entire area before we went for option 4, which was building in stages. So it seems to me that, you know, options 2 and 3 need to be done in addition, or not 3 developing it the whole time, but that a plan is done so we know what stages we're moving with.
Through the chair to the councillor.
Yes, Stuart, yeah.
Have you ever seen the site at all?
Not that I remember.
No, I know it. Yeah, I know it's difficult being a new councillor. Yeah, but if you saw the site, yeah, it would be, yeah, a bit more understanding on your view.
That's
but
right.
As I understand, if you, yeah, we can go out and have a look and whatever. Most councillors probably aware of it, but yeah, you probably are not. But yeah, that's understanding. Yep. Okay.
Like, what would the time frame be with this, like with that the shop, and what do you envisage with the shop, like to
I think we're
expressions of interest, isn't it?
I think we're anxious, Mr. Mayor, to keep some sort of continuity of the service going there as the only shop front in the little village.
Yep.
I might ask Chris to make a comment.
Thanks, Alan. Through the chair. The situation at the moment is the existing leaseholder is terminating his lease in January. So basically, we were wanting to get someone else in there, or at least put it to open tender to allow someone to have a chance to go in and lease the building and provide that service to the local community. But the site does need some attention. So whether we throw some capital funds at it in the meantime to give it a facelift, or whether we look at reserving that to a major sort of redevelopment, which is why option 4 was sort of put up. Let's lease it with a new lease agreement that allows us to go in and redevelop it in stages. So if that answers the question.
Mr. Mayor, a quick question. Has council received any interest for new tenants? We're hoping that, yes, okay.
Yeah, through the chair, yes, we have received a couple of expressions of interest, so which is the reason why we would like to go to open tender.
Councillor Phillips, if I could. And I'm trying to put it in the right words. We're saying there's no shop fronts out there. There are, and I know the people of Stock and Bingle would like more shops to open, but there's a reason some of them closed, was there's not enough through traffic to actually support them. I would actually rather see us go with option 3, where we actually tidy up what's there and then actually have someone draw something up, rather than just let's rush off and build some more buildings that we don't even know. We haven't got a tenant yet to go in the existing. If we tidy up what we already own and then get some plans and come back to council where we can look at it and make an informed decision, I'd be much more preferable for that option, because it's going to be empty. Obviously, I don't know the reasoning for the tenant giving up his lease, but there'll be 2 places where a business has ran for a number of years, and it has been able to, Stock and Bingle has been able to sustain it. To suddenly go and put 2 more shops in there, I don't know whether we're going to suddenly get 2 more tenants. I don't know if the village is big enough to support that. That was my thought.
Through the chair, thanks for the question, councillor. I suppose through the village strategies, we've gained a lot of information from the local residents that there is a real need for some services to the community. And yes, there are a number of shop fronts, existing buildings. Unfortunately, they're under private ownership, and those owners aren't really willing to lease or operate a business out of them. We had an issue only last year with the post office unable to find a shop front to actually run the post office out of, and there was a risk of actually closing the post office. And council intervened and allowed them to lease a small portion of the town hall to run that service. The existing business that's running at the moment, the leasee's basically had enough. He just wants to retire. And the current sort of subleasee who's been running the cafe is interested in signing a lease himself. And then we've had another interested party. So there's definitely, I think, a demand for it. Like I said, the site needs some money spent on it. It's a little bit run down, and there's a big need or call from the community to provide other retail spaces for interested parties to engage in any type of trade and business in Stock and Bingle. So at the moment, that's all held in private ownership. Okay. So, thank you.
Yeah, if I could, through the chair. I think the last paragraph on page 28 with the village's strategy, I think if you take that into consideration, I would like to move the recommendation that's printed. Just in respect to the community consultation part of the village's strategy. So I'll move the recommendation as printed. Option 4 detailed in the report be endorsed, being the lease of Millvale School and galvanised shed in its current form and the construction of a double shop on the western side of the block.
Any comment?
I'd just like to repeat what I said, that I think option 4 can't go ahead unless option 2 and option 3, which is the revamping of the existing and a design for the whole block, are actually considered. It would be just an ad hoc sort of thing to do. Doesn't seem to be good planning sense to me.
Mr. Mayor, does the council have a budget for this project?
Yeah.
No, we don't actually. This one's pretty much been dumped on our lap with the leasee deciding to hand his lease in, and we're sort of paying a bit of catch up, which is, again, one of the reasons for option 4 is to be able to renew the lease on the building as it is to allow that business to continue to operate. And then we can investigate, through plans and designs, how we redevelop the site, how we budget it, and then obviously do that in certain stages.
So the main aim at the present time is to get the what's there released again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
We do have a motion on the table. Councillor Palmer would be happy to just move that the recommendation be accepted as opposed to the preamble that he put with it.
I basically move the motion as printed. Correct.
I'm happy to second that.
Thank you.
I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? Pen? Mate? Yeah, that's counted as a no if you don't vote.
Oh, to Councillor Stewie's point, I'm unfamiliar with the site. So excuse my ignorance, everybody.
Through the chair.
But I apologise again, Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry, Gil.
So that motion was defeated.
Just through the chair, can I move a motion that we go with option 1? Just get these people in, someone that's interested to come in and have a look at it. Instead of the big rush, we've got no money budgeted for it. Sit back, let these people come in for 6 months, remain the status quo, see how they're going and see if they get a commitment from them. In 3 months' time, it might not work out, they might not like it, they want to close the business. We've committed all this money there, which there might not be a return for it. I reckon we should just leave it as it is for 6 months, see how it goes. If they're happy to come in as the building as it is, to currently leave it what it's leased at, they're happy with that, and reevaluate in 6 months.
Is the site pretty untidy? Like, as you said.
It's a tin shed, so.
Through the chair.
Through the chair, it is a tin shed basically. With a very, very small kitchen. It's need of some major work. So the current operator was operating mainly an antiques dealership out of it with a small tea house. He sold all his antiques in one big swoop, which was lucky, and he decided to move out. So,
Councillor Shane.
Just through the chair, I'm putting a bit of weight behind Chris's argument. Obviously, he's experiencing the person or persons who are interested in continuing the business, and it's going to require this bit of a touch-up. I'm presuming, which is probably wrong, that it's not going to cost a huge amount of money.
Okay, thanks for the question. Yeah, to remain the status quo, it's not going to cost a lot of money. We could redo a lease, like a 6-month lease, that would allow us to do some investigations of the site and work out what we want to do in the future, maybe do some costings, allow for council to go and have a look at it through the tour and become more familiar with it. So,
Mr Mayor, I'd like to second Councillor Kelly's motion.
Which you want to?
Just through the chair, option 1, leave the site as it is for currently 6 months. The new operator is happy to go in there before we make a large investment of ratepayers' money. Just see how it goes. So my option is option 1.
We've got did someone want to speak against that or for it?
I was just unaware of the numbers in regard to my recommendation. Do we have a count?
Yes, yeah, it was.
We've lost that.
It was 4 all, and Penny abstained, so that's a no. So it's 5-4. That right? Because yeah.
The main thing is to get somebody in there.
So we've got a motion from Councillor Kelly, seconded Councillor Bowden. All in favour? Passed. Can I
Sorry, Mr Mayor, can I just go back to page 24? It's just it's the one before, the development before, page 24. Yeah, but no, it's to do with, it's just there's an error, the dates are all 2017 and I think they should be 2018. Is that right, Chris?
Yes.
Sorry.
Just probably in future, or at least probably for the first 12 months, and I can see where Councillor Nicholson's coming from, with something like that, where it's, you know, the Gundagai people or vice versa, the Coota people aren't. If it's just a photo, it'd be handy, you know, because you're trying to envisage something you don't know, you know. Yeah, I just think it'd be a good idea.
Right, the next item, Mr Mayor, refers to the Highway Service Centre and Associated Subdivision at Cootamundra-Gundagai. There's more information to be received on that from the applicant. So at this stage, it's just been received and noted, recommended.
Could I make a comment, just about a comment we had earlier, and about having 3 service centres and trying to urge council that we shouldn't support it because there'll be 3 service centres. It's not part of something council can do. We cannot, and it's illegal for us to say, no, you can't open it because I'll hurt another business. That's not part of the planning process. And I just want to make that clear. Like, yes, I understand exactly what he's saying, but when it comes before us, we can only make a judgment on planning issues. We cannot say no because there's already another service station. I'm just trying to, so even when it does come to us, that's not something we can take into account.
That's exactly right. Councillor Phillips asked at the last meeting when we had those speakers from Gundagai, you know, a couple come up, but we can't make any judgments on competition.
Yeah.
You know, like, yeah, so a greengrocer can be in 217 Sherrod Street and you can't stop another greengrocer coming in 219. I'm glad you made that clear, Councillor Phillips.
Just a question through the chair. There was an issue with zoning, land usage there. Is that was okay?
The zoning matter refers to a request for subdivision, which I understand the applicant may withdraw. So, but that's information we're waiting on at the moment. But if the application for the subdivision goes away, well, the rezoning process is a lot clearer.
I'm happy to move that recommendation.
Sorry.
I'll second it.
Moved Councillor Bowden, the recommendation seconded to Councillor Palmer. All in favour? Carried.
The next item, Mr Mayor, refers to the rates hardship policy and review of future rating options. There's a recommendation in two stages.
Reading there. Any comments? I think it was Councillor Grant.
I think this one's pretty straightforward. From our last meeting, it was quite clear that if we give up $263,000, there's going to have to be some cuts in community services. You just can't take that amount of money out of your budget, and also the history of it is such that it certainly allowed the old Gundagai Shire to get on the front foot and start to contribute to certain things rather than have to keep making cut. So yeah. I think we need to go ahead with the and I actually move the two recommendations.
Move Councillor Graham, seconded Councillor Phillips. All in favour? Carried. Councillor Palmer, your fault.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
The next report refers to the investment report as of the 30th of November. Mr Mayor, it's for information to be received and noted.
Move the recommendation.
That recommendation moved Councillor Palmer, seconded Councillor Graham. All in favour? Carried.
The next item refers to our statutory pecuniary interest returns, which are tabled, I guess.
They're tabled there, mate.
Oh, they're there. They are tabled here. Yes, thank you. So they're tabled for anybody that's interested. So that needs to be just noted.
Recommendation moved Councillor Phillips.
Seconded.
Seconded Councillor Palmer. All in favour? Carried.
The next item refers to the committees and working groups. It's important to realise that these aren't set in stone and can be changed or added to or altered as we go through, and the need arises at any stage. So don't think that you're establishing something that can't be changed. That's all. It can be changed as you go along and circumstances change. So Kate's done a report there recommending some of the committees and
well, we might
some
start
of the members.
go through them from the top.
Yep.
And you want to ask councillors to nominate if they want to go on?
Yeah, well, that's
right. We got the showground users. Where we start?
yes, that's the Cootamundra Showground users. The recommendation is that we certainly need to have a look at the constitutions, because there are mandatory requirements of each constitution would be very similar, with the purpose of each committee being somewhat different, obviously, but the composition of the constitutional charter would be pretty similar one to the other. So if council agrees with that suggestion that one councillor representative is required, we should nominate a councillor.
Any comment there? Or? Yeah.
I'm quite happy to go in there.
Through the chair, just a quick comment. What's Gundagai got? Have they got a showground committee too?
Well, they have the Showground Trust, Showground and Racecourse Trust. Gordon Linley's the president still, I think, of that. So they just have their own trust as the Showground and Racecourse.
Yeah. Okay.
It's not.
And then
under
every
council.
user has their own committee.
Yeah, it's not under council.
So we'll do this as a whole at the finish.
Yeah. Okay.
So we'll just put down Councillor Phillips. Everyone right with that?
So the hall charters has recommended that we have a look at all of the hall committee charters before we determine whether you need councillors on them or not.
Through the chair, if I may, every year for a number of years, I've always gone out and done their AGMs. It's one of the better 355 committees, and they really get something done and work very hard for their community. So I don't know if we need a councillor rep on it. They just normally ask someone to go for their AGM.
No, I think that's quite adequate. That's great to do it. Yeah.
That's historically how it has been. Yeah. We haven't had a council rep.
Same with Stock and Bingle and the Muttama Hall Management Committee.
Yeah, they're a good committee.
The Beach Volleyball Festival, we'll be working closely with them. They're a one-off event type thing, so council staff will work closely with them anyway. So I don't think there's any need for a councillor on there unless you want to.
I'm already on.
You're on the committee anyway.
And I know the council staff have been extremely cooperative and helpful over the years, and I can't see any reason why that would stop.
Oh, you'd like to think that'd continue, Councillor Phillips. You know, same in Gundagai with our big events, they're excellent.
The next one's the Heritage Centre Management Committee. Councillor Stewart's the vice chairperson of that.
I'll continue on there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stewart.
Cootamundra Concert Band was recommended a review be undertaken of the committee structure. Yeah, I'm not sure of the status of that myself.
I don't think we've ever had a council member on that committee, have we?
I think Councillor Braybrook's in the former council was always involved in it because his daughters had played in it for a number of years and was a bit of a patron for them. So, but I don't know if there was any formal business that a councillor needed to undertake.
Gundagai Town Band, we've never been involved with. You know, we help them out if they did want anything. We've never had a member.
The Muttama Creek Regeneration Group, they're a pretty active committee, Mr Mayor. It's up to council, but I think they seem to function pretty well without a council or representative. The Creative Arts and Cultural Centre, they seem to operate pretty well as well. Not too bad.
I'm on that one and Kate's on that one as well. So, yeah.
That's all good.
Yep.
The internal committees and working groups, the, sorry, you want to
No,
read
you're right.
those?
No, I thought Kate wanted something to say.
You want to move those before we go on to these?
Yeah, we might, would someone like to move those committees and representatives we've got on?
Yeah, I'll move to those
Councillor
committees and
James,
representatives
Councillor
be accepted.
Kelly, all in favour.
The internal committees and working groups, the consultative committee is an internal committee. It has to be established by virtue of the local government state award rules. We've got far too many people on there, but we'll address that and so that will still function. The Cootamundra Sale Yards Committee has recommended that be an advisory committee of the whole of council. I don't know whether any councillor wants to be on that or whether you want to leave it to...
I'm no worries to be on.
Leave it. You're on that anyway, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, because me, yeah.
Well, you can be on that for sure. And the...
So,
that'll replace the Gundagai, Cootamundra, put them both together. The local area traffic committee, that's been...
So, Councillor Graham, you want to go on that Sale Yards Committee?
Yeah, I'm quite happy because I was on the Gundagai Sale Yards Committee. Yep.
Okay, so that'll be yourself and the mayor.
Same representatives are right for the agents.
The local area traffic committee, that's been determined as Councillor Shan. Sporting groups advisory committee. And that'll be a volatile one. I don't know whether any councillor wants to be on that. I think it's a good idea to have the one committee. But if any councillor wants to put their hand up to be involved with it, that's fine. But otherwise, it'll be a staff run thing. So
In the past, we always like it was two, but the reason they put two in case someone was away. So really, one council would be sufficient, I think.
I'll go on that, Mr Mayor, if you like.
Or we'll put the two representatives. Councillor Shane and Councillor Kelly, you both happy to go on it?
right, the Workplace Health and Safety Committee, that's a staff committee which is will be established as usual. The Gundagai Main Street Committee, that's is not required. It's a sunset the committee. The Mirrabooka Advisory Committee really is mostly an operational thing. I don't think there's a need for, I've attended a couple of those meetings. I don't think there's a need for any councillor on that. Unless council, I mean, council can be at any they want to, of course.
No, I don't think there is. It's more an internal thing. Like I used to be on it, we wouldn't meet all. I would say we wouldn't have met for 2 years. It was only whether it was on a bit of maintenance, but it was more council operational side. So I'd have no worries if, you know, it wasn't required for council.
The Noxious Weeds Advisory Committee is a pretty important committee from a rural point of view.
Councillor Grant.
We've had two
Councillor
councillors
Shane.
and Councillor Shane. The Former Development Committee has been recommended to be replaced by with the Planning and Development Committee. So we'll deal with that in a minute. The Tourism Action Committee. Yeah, I agree with the recommendation on that. That's
I'm on the Gundagai committee as it is.
That's
10 years, yeah.
And Councillor Phillips and I are on the Cooter group.
It's in limbo a bit at the moment, Mr. Mayor, because we're advertising for some staff to see what's out there, because there's a big hole in that area, particularly on the Cootamundra side of things. And depending on what we get out of the advertising, we'll look to restructure the committee.
We did sort of mention that sort of quarterly we might, the two meet.
No, it's well done. The Gundagai Floodplain Risk Management Committee, that is a legislative committee, and as has been suggested, take the Gundagai out there, just have the Floodplain Risk Management Committee. We formerly had two councillors on that.
I'll go on the Gundagai.
Well, we're just having one committee, so.
Oh yeah, you don't. I thought you said you want two. Yeah.
Oh, I think you do, probably, yeah.
I wouldn't think you'd meet very often anyway.
No.
Yeah. Well, I think they met before the torrential rain that was forecast.
Yeah, we had a meeting in Gundagai on that Thursday. The Main Street Committee, I guess you just leave that as it is at the moment till the Sunset Committee. The Yarrie Sculpture is complete. The Gundagai Historical Museum Committee, I certainly agree with the recommendation that we have a look at. There's a lot of Gundagai historical type committees that I think need pulling together some way or another.
This one is mainly just on the museum itself.
Well, it's up to council, obviously. If you think
it's more, it's just a representative when they have their meeting.
Oh, I'm happy to go on that one.
Yeah, I got no worries either.
Yeah.
And you can look at, you know.
Oh, it's knocked off.
It's all
it's all councillors, a performance review committee schedule. Planning. Well, that's. You won't get any opposition to that, I'm sure. Planning and Development Committee is all councillors. It's recommended to be established. That's a committee I think that we do need to have. As I said, you can add to these committees or take away from them as you go through. It's nothing set in stone with them. But I think you need that forum to discuss matters relating to planning and anything else. The Tourism and Business Promotions Committee.
I'd like to be on that. Thank you.
Just through the chair on that one. I've got all that material from the rail trail study that was done by that rail trail committee put up on the portal, with the view that all councillors familiarise themselves with it over the next couple of months. And I think that's something that really is going to be a key issue behind this. It's an opportunity to really drive the tourism thing that could benefit the whole council right across. And I just want to remind councillors to read all those reports, read those feasibility studies. That was all paid for by the previous Gundagai Council. And there's some good information in there, and to familiarise yourself with it. So when we do sit down to discuss it, and we should have a specific date to do that, Mr. General Manager, whether it be February, March meeting or something like that, that we give this some serious thought, because that will take council to drive that to make it happen.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we'd hope to have some additional resources in place to support this by then, February, March. So we'd certainly look to get on with it then.
Yeah, certainly.
I'd like to.
I'm happy to as well.
Any in late?
That's it.
I keep coming in. If we just probably need a rest.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to raise the issue that I raised when we had a discussion about this, and that is that I'm adamant that we need a finance committee. And we've, even since this council started, I've seen examples where there is time, if people are a little bit better informed and can assist and use their skills, we could potentially save some money. And one of those is the audit, where we had a double fee. If we had people in there with skills who are able to help and assist in planning this, I'm sure we would have been able to keep that down. I haven't seen the details of why the bill's gone right over, but it just doesn't sit right.
I'm actually agree with you, Councillor Graham, because as you know, we have one with Gundagai Shire, and I thought it worked extremely well. And I think we had probably 3 or 4 committee on it, councillors, sorry, but it did.
As many as possible can come on.
Yeah,
so the more people there that want to make a contribution.
Yeah.
It's not a talk fest. You're going there to help the staff, corporate services and finance, help them develop a budget that is achievable, right? And we've got 3 years till we're all gone and someone else comes in to pull this whole thing together, and we still haven't got a combined accounting system. We're still operating under 2 accounting systems, nearly 2 years after the merger's been put together. So we've got a lot of work to do, and it's important, and we have a responsibility to do it right.
I certainly agree. I've experienced throughout the previous Gundagai Council that it worked extremely well.
Through the chair, if I may, only concern is that are we stepping into that grey area where councillors are becoming operational staff? That's the only issue I have with it. So that the staff can create a report, we look at it, and then we used to have a finance committee of sorts, but then we look at the recommendation on council's behalf and then move forward that way. So we brought it to council and we actually made headway that way, rather than sitting in back offices trying to help. That's my only concern.
Well, if you're going to develop a plan and develop a strategic plan, you've got to put some numbers around it, and that's why our committee worked well, because people would come up with ideas, we'd put it in there, we'd cost it. All of a sudden, there's opportunities to pick up grants, do things, this and that, and we've been elected by the people to represent them. So they come to us with an idea. That's their way of getting that in there. I'm sure Mr. McMurray would vouch for what I'm saying, because he was very, very close to a lot of these things. And as our mayor said, Mr. McAllister, that it did work well, and we turned Gundagai around. And our main street would not have happened if we didn't have a finance committee with councillors involved.
That sounds much the same as what we had here. I was just concerned that we were in the back rooms of operational.
A lot of times, like the work was done in the background before it came to the committee too, David, and they just put it in front of us. And as you said, probably more people having a look at it and the right sort of people that, you put all minds together at work well, but a lot of the work was done prior by the council staff.
I'd be happy to support that.
Could I just make a comment?
Yes, yep.
Cootamundra Council used to have lots of different committees, but I believe in the last couple of years, under the Local Government Act, some of the functions or accesses that some of these committees had has changed significantly. I am not totally familiar with the constraints imparted on the Finance Committee. We used to be called a Corporate Services Committee. I think we'd have to take direction from the General Manager to see how this fits with the current direction of OLG or LGNSW. I'm just not sure what we can do with a Finance Committee under the new regulations.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there's no, I mean, you can have a finance committee, but you can't have councillors sitting with staff working out in the back room, working out budgets and that sort of thing. That's just totally prohibited under the current legislation. So, but you can have, you can suggest ideas and you can analyse and go through figures and that sort of thing with the council staff, and you bring them back to a committee. I mean, that's fine, and staff would welcome that, but you just can't you can't have the involvement with staff that you used to have once, and that's not our doing. That's the legislation. So, but you can do it at a forum. Once the information is prepared, you can come and talk about it and ask to go away and revisit it and rework it and throw in ideas. And I think that's a good idea. I've got no problems with that, but off here again. You can't go through and actually work with the staff building up things in the back room. That's
through the mayor, Mr. General Manager. That's exactly how we used to do it at Gundagai. We weren't involved in the putting together the numbers. We would come together and they'd be put in front of us, and we'd discuss projects and how we could try and get things funded. Right? And if people put their hands up to be involved and are elected by the ratepayers, and they've got skills, and everyone's got different skills, well then I think it's crazy that in local government that we don't utilise some of those skills.
We'd certainly welcome we'd welcome as much involvement as we can get from the councillors, because we're all ambassadors out there for the council, and you need to know when you're asked questions as to why something happened or why something is happening or isn't happening. You need to know the answers as to why that's the case, and you can't get all of that information at a formal council meeting. So as far as I'm concerned, we'd be quite happy about that involvement.
I'd back that. That's how it worked. As I said there earlier, we never got involved in the back room or went and sat with our accountants, or it was they presented something to the committee, and the committee said, well, we'd then discuss it, but we certainly didn't sit with them while they were setting those budgets or those tasks.
Plus, we've got all the community strategic involvement as well now, which needs to come back for analysing and dissection, and a committee like that's a good place to do that. But I think if that's the case, you'd probably need it just to have it open number of councils. Any number that, same sort of.
Or just like the development committees.
Yep.
So, Councillor Graham, would you like to move?
Yeah, I'll move the recommendation that we have a finance committee, and all councillors, if they want to, can be involved.
Let's move. Councillor Graham, second. Councillor Phillips. All in favour? Carried.
The next one, Kate's prepared.
Do you want to pass those? Someone like to move.
Oh, sorry, I thought we did that.
No, we didn't. Would someone like to move to those internal committees and working groups? Move. Move. Councillor Graham, second. Councillor Palmer. All in favour? Carried.
The appointment of delegates is the next one, Mr. Mayor. The first one was the Cootamundra Development Corporation, which I haven't got to much yet.
185, is it?
Page 85, yeah. We've had two councillors on that in the past. I don't know who they are.
Yes,
Kate,
through the chair, it was me.
oh, it was-
I'd like to continue. Thank you.
any other?
Do we need another councillor?
Well,
At this stage, I don't really think so, no. I think there's, a matter of having two is not a necessity.
Golden Fields Water is determined, as is the REROC. We missed a meeting there on Monday because I thought the executive had notified our delegates and they hadn't, and we didn't. So a bit of a miscommunication there, but we'll make sure we're well represented in the future. Riverine Regional Library, Councillor Bowden, that's been determined. The regional tourism, we have one councillor on that.
I'm wondering if Councillor Nicholson and I could share that. Would you be amenable to that, Penny?
Hello. The Weight of Loads group, that's normally the engineer of the day. It's not a popular group. The Waste Management group is normally one councillor. I don't know who that councillor is at the moment.
I think that historically, through the chair, was the mayor.
Yeah, I think it was.
Pretty big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be right.
So that'll be.
But the mayor. Southwest Slope Zone Bushfire Management Committee, that's been determined as Councillor Kelly and myself, and the same for the Southwest Slope Zone Service Level Agreement Committee. Greg, that's Councillor Nicholson. We're saying it doesn't require a councillor delegate, but you're on it anyway, I think, Councillor Nicholson. So, Gundagai Youth Council, that's a staff one with one councillor.
I'll be right.
You're on the mayor on that one? You can handle that one?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. No, I see.
Murray-Darling Association, that's the MDA. We're in Region 9, I think. Oh, that's you're formally on that, Mr. Mayor?
Right.
You're formally on that?
No,
Murray-Darling?
Mason Crane was there one there. That's sort of, anyone can.
Yeah.
They didn't meet much once a year, I think.
No, they don't. Sometimes it's pretty obscure. They meet a long way away, but yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. In case, if it does blow up again, the Murray-Darling Basin plan,
yeah,
we may need
that's
somebody.
a good idea.
The RMS Consultative Committee, one councillor.
Check council. Oh, yeah.
Riverine Highlands Rural, I've never heard of that one before. Softwoods Working Group, Councillor Graham. Gold Trails Incorporated, one councillor. Does not require a council delegate. Gold. I think.
Through the chair, the Gold Trails is the reenactment group that go in doing the history of bush ranging and gold rush eras, and they're quite active around this region, so that's what they are.
So, Councillor Sheen, is it?
Seems to know a fair bit about it.
I'm happy to, or again, put it as required because,
Friends of Old Gundagai Jail Incorporated. We've normally had, I don't see the need for councillors on that.
But if they need a councillor, yeah, Glenn Moore and all them are on it.
And I think as council, we need to sort of try and get our community committees to be self-managed and we discuss it when we're required.
Unless, Pen, did you want to go on that? I'm quite happy to go on that whole chart.
Mr Mayor, I'm hoping to go with the recommendation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So that's those. We need a resolution to.
If you want to go back to those resolutions, I suppose, that we had on page 41.
Yep.
That the section 355 committee members be reappointed in accordance with their report, that the section 355 manual be endorsed, that other internal committees at working groups. So with someone like me, that will cover it as a whole.
Page 41.
Councillor Bowden, second councillor Nicholson, all in favour.
The next item refers to the annual report, Mr Mayor, which is a great waste of paper for page 87. It's a statutory report that we have to do. It takes up a lot of time and space, and I have yet to find anybody that's actually read it, but in any council. But
it's the operation.
It's the annual report. It's yeah. It's most of it's made up of the financials, which just sit on the shelf, and but it's a government requirement, so we have to do it.
Is that just here? If I could ask the question to Ray, when will we be getting a plant replacement program or a works program?
The plant replacement program was put to council under administration, but I can get you a copy of that.
Yeah.
And the works program, we're still, that's dependent on information that comes out of the Maloney's report.
So could we get a...
Why do we have to wait for the Maloney report information to have that? You know, both councils would have had a works program going forward. There would have been certain things done and certain things not done. So why do we also have to wait for another program, another report to come forward?
Yeah, I thought even during the amalgamation period that they would have worked that, you know, between our staff and Cooter staff.
Yeah, I'll get that to the January council meeting.
That'll be good. And that plant replacement, you can get that out to the one that was done in amalgamation out now.
Yeah, I'll report to the January council meeting.
We'll shortly be preparing work for the next one anyway as well. So like that's got to really start in February, March.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of information I think we'd like to see as council. Well, we had a recommendation there for that report, the December operation. Someone like to move that? Oh, did you move, Councillor Shane? Second, Councillor Stewart. All in favour? Carried.
The next one relates to the Floodplain Management Committee minutes. Recommendations: the revised Gundagai flood study 2017 be adopted and draft floodplain risk management study and plan be developed.
Someone like to move that way, or got comment, or want to ask anything?
Move the recommendation.
Move, Councillor.
Yep.
91. Oh, oh, mine's on 91. Oh, page 88.
Yeah.
No, that's what we just did. Oh,
we
sorry.
did it as well.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. Well, someone like to move the annual report. Sorry. Move, Councillor Shane.
Yeah.
Second, Councillor Palmer. All in favour?
We've moved it twice. That's good.
And well, we've moved the next one. Sorry.
Yeah. Next one's the December operations report was actually put.
Yeah, and it was.
Through the chair, Mr. Mayor, are we still looking at having the whole Cowcumber Street open by Christmas?
Yeah, through you, Mr Chair, that is the plan, weather permitting.
Through Chair, Mr. Mayor, in relation to technical services section, are we able to know what the cost of the Three Ways Bridge is going to be, and when is work going to start?
We're working with the successful tender at the moment. They're looking at commencing works probably in February of next year. just as they get their materials together. The costs, off the top of my head, I couldn't give the exact cost, but it's under the $150,000 mark for it.
And who was the successful tenderer? Or aren't we meant to know?
It's Murray Valley Piling. They did the works at Tumut just recently.
So why, when this came up, why didn't we go straight to Murray Valley Piling when previously, whenever we had small bridge problems in the Gundagai Shire, I could name 3 or 4 in my time as councillor that we've just rung them and within 2 or 3 months they've been up and done the job?
Basically because of our, we've got our procurement policies and we have to abide by those guidelines. And the cost of that was of such a magnitude that we actually needed to get or attempt to get multiple quotes for it.
Move Councillor Phillip. This is now on the floodplain. Yep. Move Councillor Phillip, second to Councillor Kelly. All in favour?
Just a quick question on that one. This is just covering Gundagai.
Yes,
Do we
mate,
incorporate the same policies and strategies for Cootamundra flood as well? Just like the aim of the flood plan risk management plan is to enable council to manage the risk of flooding Murrumbidgee floodplain and Muttama floodplain, because we have the same issues in this town with the Muttama Valley. So do we use this plan to incorporate the strategy across both communities?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This study is actually funded through the Office of Environment and Heritage, and we've had to engage a suitably qualified consultant to undertake that modelling. It's quite an expensive process to do, and that's where we got the funding to do it. We can talk with the guys from Office of Environment and Heritage next time the funding streams come up, whether we revisit the Muttama Valley, in particular the Cootamundra areas.
Just in the local traffic committee meeting the other day, the police praised the work of council by closing the causeways, which saves them, being drawn into issues that have happened. So he just said, is this part of your flood policy? And I said, yes.
That's a bit different to the flood study.
Did this one follow on from the study?
Yeah, flood studies are specific for catchment. So the work that the consultants that Ray talks about have put in place a whole flood model based on the flow in the Murrumbidgee River in this particular case, and Jones's Creek as it comes in. To undertake a flood study for Muttama Creek would need a whole different analysis.
Just through the chair, if I could, Cootamundra had a very extensive floodplain management conducted probably 10, 12 years ago, so it would be in existence somewhere in the council's archives. It was a long and extensive process, that one.
Yeah, it's 1980s data that's available. Yeah, it probably does need to be revised at some stage, but you would be chasing grant money from OEH to undertake it. We were lucky in Gundagai, we had ours funded at a 6-to-1 ratio, which is quite unusual with hardship, given that we're a combined council now with a lot bigger rate base. I doubt we'd be under that arrangement, so you might be looking at a 2-to-1 funding, so mightn't be so viable.
The next item, Mr. Mayor, refers to the Cootamundra pool, and it's presented for information. We're still working on some methods of providing unsupervised access to this pool, but there are some modifications need to be made. There's a fair bit of money to be spent on this pool in the next 12 months or so, and maybe some of these modifications can be incorporated into that. to enable us to operate on the same basis as smaller communities operate their pools, because the community is really pretty insistent that we have the same level of unsupervised access as other communities do, and we've got to try and meet that, and we can't. Well, we've just got to try and do whatever we have to do to comply.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, may I ask a question? In the, I might have got this wrong, but the changes have to be made to the indoor pool.
Correct.
What's the deal with the outdoor pool? Can that be made available to people beyond 6:30 p.m?
Well, it's a matter of staffing, I guess, and supervision. Look, it's anything's possible, but it really depends upon demand. If you have, I think the area that you would involve with an outside pool would require some sort of supervision, because there's no cameras over all of the pool area. I would think, and it would require some sort of public demand. You're not going to open the pool for 2 or 3 people, but if there was a major
until
demand,
it's open.
no, well, we would operate to community pressure.
Thank you.
Obviously, I mean, that's what we're for.
Okay,
Yeah.
so then like petitions or whatever for people to Cootamundra to trial that the pool is open.
Well, we
later
can do
hours?
that. Other places I've seen where you might require a certain number there to open the pool. Like you might open it for 5 o'clock training sessions if you get 20 people that want to use it, but you're not going to do it from 1 or 2 people. But yeah, so really whatever. If the community comes to us with a request, we will do our best to service the community.
So people sort of have to book and say they'll be there to warrant it being opened.
Yeah, if you can get them together to do that, and we can. But we don't want them to all sign a petition and not turn up.
From memory, the lifeguard operators have the ability to keep it open if there's a lot of people there. So it's at their discretion. So that was how it has always been run. Is that right, Councillor Palmer?
Through the chair, that is right, but I still don't think we've got the opening hours right. It's one of the hottest subjects in the street talk at the moment, and we're only just starting our summer swimming season. Councillor Bowden is very close to the bone here. We have got some issues that our pool is not available enough to enough people all the time. I don't know what the right mix is. I don't know how we fund it. But we have certainly got a lot of community comment in regard to our opening hours.
Can I suggest, Mr. Mayor, that we might organise a meeting with, the schools are going into recess now, but schools are major users and the swimming clubs and other users to see what we can do, have everybody in the room together. And any interested members of the public. It is a hot issue. I get it everywhere, and we're just flitting around the edges of it at the moment, trying to find reasons why we can't do a lot of things. And
through the chair, I think that'd be a real good PR exercise. I really do.
Just through the chair, Mr. Mayor. I just see, like, for the pool hours as of the 18th of November, in the morning, 6:30 to 8:30 for your aerobic sports and all that. How many people do we get at 9:30 in the morning until 7 on a weekday? Not counting when school holidays are on, of course. I wouldn't imagine too many.
I don't know. I'm fit enough. I don't know about
all our skills going at those times.
Can we have a look at, during the month of January, opening until, like, advertise it that we're opening until 8 o'clock every night, and then depending on numbers, where we'll revisit it for February or something like that, just to gauge the interest for that month?
Well, why don't we try and have the meeting next week and vary the hours according to what the meeting wants?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor. With respect, next week is the week before Christmas. You're going to find mothers with young children a bit preoccupied.
Well, they'll make time if they're interested. But other than that, you've got to leave it till January, and the next thing is swimming season's over.
So the main aim is to get opening later.
So moving forward through the chair, how would you promote this meeting?
Well, I guess you put some signs up around the swimming pool for a start, and word of mouth. You'll soon get the word out there. We can use 2LF, we can't, and the local papers, I guess.
I'm concerned that because it is Christmas, that people won't come to the meeting, and then we'll be able to say nobody came, therefore they're not interested. I like Councillor Kelly's idea of, like trialling it.
Oh, looks, no, we'll do whatever the community wants.
But through the chair, can I move a motion that we open till 8 o'clock during January?
Are the staff that run it happy to work later?
Oh, well, if they're not, we'll get some others.
Yeah, so you got no problem with staff. No, I mean, you got no problem with staff inside of it because Gundagai's run completely different.
Well, the staff really work for the council.
Yeah.
And
I'm happy to second that motion.
So do you want to read that? This is the motion that's put. No, would you want to read out your motion? So
yeah, well, the motion is just for the month of January that the opening hours of the pool be changed to close at 8 o'clock, and then we can gauge the reaction and the attendance from people there, and moving forward into February.
Not on a public holiday, of course.
All right. So we'll include not on a public holiday. That's moved. Councillor Kelly, seconded Councillor Sheen. All in favour?
Just before we go, if I could, before we have the vote, I still think what the General Manager proposed is the way to go. We need to get, this is a red hot subject at the moment, and if their motion is successful, that's fine, but I still think we should consult with the community. If nobody turns up, as Councillor Bowden proposes, so be it, but give the community the opportunity. Every day of every week in the past month, there's been comment about our pool. So if those people can make comment, they should turn up at our meeting. Thank you.
In response to Councillor Palmer, I think if we do a trial through January, which is the school holidays, I think that's going to give us a far better indication than what's going to turn up at a meeting.
Asked, we've actually said we're trialling something new anyway, and then so that we're talking and we're actually not coming in cold.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, too, then if we're going ahead with the meeting, could I suggest that we hold the meeting at the pool, 6:30, the week before Christmas?
It's closed. Closed at 6. No.
One night, trial it one night and come and talk about it.
Just through the chair, I believe the meeting will be unnecessary. The attendance figures throughout January will give us a good indication of whether we've done the right thing or not. Yeah. Otherwise, we're just having a meeting for a meeting's sake.
Yeah. So it's probably just from my point of view, and Penny and sorry, Councillor Nicholson and Councillor Graham, it's one of those subjects a bit like the stock and bingo job we spoke about before. Yeah, we're going to be voting on something we're really not okay with, which is,
But in your absence, Councillor Palmer could chair the meeting, and
but that's why I mean we can't have any. It's hard to make comments. So.
The other thing, Mr. Mayor, we got $500,000 to spend there on $400,000 on a water park, and $100,000 to spend on shade cloths. So they're things that we should be talking with the users of the pool about as well when those concepts come out. They should be getting close. We've had them approved by for 12 months or so.
And through the chair, just ASAP if we can get it in the paper and say that we're going to be open those times, and then you'll get your attendance that way.
We've got a sorry.
Just a comment. The real driving thing in pool usage will be weather. If you get hot weather through January, you'll get a lot of people. If your pool's open at 8 o'clock, they'll be there at 8 o'clock. They'll be having tea at 8 o'clock. You'll get far more patronage at your pool. If your pool's shut, you're not going to get them. So I think it's feasible that we just do it.
Yep, through the chair, I agree with Councillor Shane.
No other comment? No other? Well, we've got the motion that it's for the month of January, the pool open, Cootamundra swimming pool, outdoor pool opens to 8 o'clock at night, excluding public holidays. And it's seconded by Councillor Shane. All in favour? Carried.
The next item, Mr Mayor, refers to a notice of motion from Councillor Bowden, which is on page 99.
Councillor Bowden, would you like to speak to that motion?
Yeah, in response to Mr Chalmers, I tried to keep it so brief, and I'm aware I've only got 5 minutes to speak. The reason I've said, the first reason there that it came up as an objection, one of the objections in, to the Coolac development, that Aboriginal heritage wasn't considered. And then when I was reading about it, it was that there are, and I'm aware now of a wording that it's an Aboriginal, should be an Aboriginal advisory group rather than a consultative group, because I think the General Manager mentioned that consultative groups were staff. So, you know, in terms of wording. But the motion is that Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council, in consultation and negotiation with the local Aboriginal communities, establish an Aboriginal advisory committee. The aim of the committee would be to direct developers and council staff to the legislation that they need to follow when they're making applications. It would give council staff people to talk with about issues that may be of Aboriginal significance. Local Government New South Wales recommends that councils establish Aboriginal consultative committees. They're very strong on that. I've got here too that the Office of Local Government has a social justice policy that includes marginalised people. Commenting on Mr Chalmers' comment, Aboriginal people are not equal with non-Indigenous people. Social indicators show that they are dying at least 10 years before non-Indigenous community, that their rates of incarcerations are higher. The only thing that they're on a level playing field with is actually tertiary education at this stage, and that's in the Bringing Them Home report. I'm speaking about this and I'm speaking passionately about it. And again, you know, like I'm interested that Councillor Chalmers didn't see my interest in Aboriginal things in the lead up to the election, because I have been working in Aboriginal justice support for 30 years. I am the convener of AWARE, Cootamundra and Surrounds Social Justice Group, and Aboriginal issues. Aboriginal justice support is one of the issues. I am the non-Indigenous project officer of the Cootamundra Aboriginal Working Group. I have made links with Aboriginal people like Nikki Westcombe at Gundagai. I have spoken with Aboriginal people about putting this recommendation forward, and they agreed. They're saying it would be a wonderful thing to do. The key thing here in this, I'm not saying the Cootamundra-Gundagai Regional Council rush out and establish it. I'm saying in consultation with and negotiation with Aboriginal people, and the Aboriginal people in the area might say, nah, sick of working with white fellas, don't want to do it. in which case it doesn't happen. But because, and another point is that Aboriginal people in our region are higher in numbers than the national average. The national average is 2-point-something%. In Cootamundra-Gundagai, it's 3-point-something%. Gundagai celebrated Aboriginal people with the Yarri and Jackie statue, been a very good relationship. Cootamundra, a sad history with the Cootamundra Aboriginal Girls' Home. Councillor Phillips will attest that at the beginning of this year, we had commemorated the 20th anniversary of the tabling of the Bring Them Home report, showing a film, Servant and Slave, that showed what happened at Cootamundra Girls' Home. So it's the advisory committee the Aboriginal Advisory Committee is to have the councillors and staff have Aboriginal people to go to discuss things of importance and that are relevant to Aboriginal people. Aboriginal people are reluctant and reticent to come forward in white forums. Aboriginal people are underrepresented on local councils. They're only 1% of councillors throughout the state. Marianne Saliba, Mayor of Shell Harbour and President of the Australian Local Government Women's Association, suggested that we look at their Shell Harbour's website to see how their Aboriginal Advisory Committee works. As I said, the keynote speaker at the ALGW breakfast was Rhoda Roberts, the programmer for Indigenous productions at the Opera House, and her talk was about how councils can liaise, negotiate successfully with Aboriginal communities. At that conference, a number of councils have those Aboriginal advisory groups in place. It means basically nothing. Like, it means something, but it means nothing for us. We don't have to do anything. And I would put my hand up to say that I would be happy to talk with the Aboriginal communities in our region about what they would like to do, and to say it would probably take a couple of years to do it, because it's all a matter of trust. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Adam. Any comment? Yeah,
Through the
Councillor
chair, if I
Phil.
may, Mr Mayor. Reading it, and I understand exactly where you're coming from, Councillor Bowden. Perhaps we ask council staff to go and put together sort of a preemptive policy so that when we're doing those things, we can actually ask the Aboriginal community, because the other part of developments as well, we have to advertise them and ask the neighbours. So I think we tick some of those boxes, but I understand we need to make sure that we're respecting, sacred land and things like that. But I'd actually like to see us write some sort of policy or something where we could move forward. I don't know.
Yes, Mark.
Through the chair, I think Councillor Bowden needs a seconder for this to transgress any further. If not...
Has she put a motion there?
She has.
I'm calling motion on the council.
Did someone do, or did you want a bit more comment on it first before?
Yeah.
Well, we need a motion.
Well, you want a seconder for that motion? You want to discuss it? Yeah.
Policy, have the staff write a policy and then we go to that. I see that as the second step.
Councillor Parliament.
Well, through the chair, I find myself in an unusual predicament here. That motion recommendation hasn't got up. I was going to move an amendment, but I guess I will move this as a recommendation. That council invite a representative from the Aboriginal community to become a member of the Planning and Development Committee. Now, speaking for that, that would have been my amendment. My reasoning being that there is a statutory requirement in the assessment process for some particular DAs, and the inclusion of an Aboriginal representative is in keeping with the spirit of Collaborate New South Wales, a resource kit prepared by local government, by the Office of Local Government in conjunction with Education Aboriginal Affairs. I don't believe we need another committee. We've just sat through the formation of countless committees. I acknowledge Councillor Bowden's passion for this, but it is all enshrined in a local government kit. So I would like to move that. Now, whether through the chair this is an amendment or a recommendation, I don't think I can call it an amendment. Councillor Bowden's.
I support that recommendation on the provision, and I don't know how you'd word this, Councillor Palmer, that it's very hard for one Aboriginal person to work with a lot of non-Indigenous people. There's in employing Aboriginal people, it's always good to have two so that they can work together. There's different protocols in place. So I don't know if, we could look at having two people to be advisors, or somehow rather than just a lone token Aboriginal voice.
Mr. Mayor, they would only, sorry.
You can't know.
They'd only be in an advisory capacity. There'd be non-voting members but they would be in an advisory capacity. So I guess there's nothing wrong with inviting the local Indigenous representatives to attend the planning meetings and to advise on any matters that they think appropriate as required.
Yeah, my comment, I think what Councillor Palmer put up is probably what I'd go for, because, and if it's two, I've got no problem there, because there'll be some planning matters that we won't need advice from the Indigenous people, but there certainly will be ones that we will want advice from them.
Through the chair, if I may. Our committees that we form, they're fluid. We can can them or we can create them. As Councillor Bowden's worded this thing, I don't see any real issue. It could even be helpful in, say, a development application like the Coolac one, which just means you negotiate with the Aboriginal community and they say, oh, we've done a survey over all that land, which we did when the bypass was done. So it could be of benefit. So just rereading what she has written and how it's stated, I'm quite happy to second her motion. I can't see it creating a huge problem. As she said, they could even be very reluctant to get involved and the committee may not even get off the ground.
Can I add something in there, Mr. Mayor? Because we're a merged shire, those representatives need to be selected as per the DA or the issue, because it'd be silly if they were two Aboriginal people who lived in Cootamundra making a judgment upon something in Gundagai and vice versa. So that needs to be fluid and we'll need to ask them when something comes up. I'm in support of Councillor Palmer's motion. Okay, sorry.
Excuse me, Mr.
Just
Mayor.
through the chair, excuse me. Councillor Bowden's motion did lapse for the want of a seconder.
Correct.
And then Councillor Palmer has put up a motion. Did you want to speak to? Yeah.
Well, it states in Councillor Bowden's thing, in consultation and negotiation with the local Aboriginal communities. It doesn't just say a community. So it's pretty open worded. It's not, it's just making that avenue open to council. Like, yeah, reading it, I don't see a big issue with it. And as I said, I am happy to second the original motion.
Well, it did lapse for one of the seconder, but I think what Councillor Palmer was saying, well, as we said there before, we've got a lot of committees. We'll put these representatives from either town on the development committee, which, yeah, sorry.
I'd just like to go back to the negotiation and consultation, because you can't just pluck a couple of Aboriginal people out and say, you're the ones to come onto the, DA committee. There does need to be some kind of consultation and negotiation with the Aboriginal community to even find out whether they want to.
Well, why we worry about moving motions, like if your opinion is we need to go and talk because we might get anyone, we probably should go and talk to the Indigenous people first and then come back and decide if we're going to have
Anything.
Yeah.
How about that?
Councillor Palmer.
Through the chair, as a point of order, could somebody tell me where we stand? Is there a recommendation or did it lapse?
Well,
is mine an amendment or is mine the recommendation?
Well, there was a motion, and that did lapse for the want of a seconder. And then you've now put up a motion.
Well, I would like to direct the chair to put the motion.
And it's seconded, Councillor Phillips.
Thank you.
And that you just want to read your motion again, so we've got it all clear.
That council invite a representative from the local Aboriginal community to become a member of the Planning and Development Committee. As non-voting, an advisory capacity. It's been moved and seconded.
It's been moved, seconded. All in favour?
Not happy?
Not happy because we've just said that there are two
That's a point of order.
Sorry.
A point of order. Please, we all passed a code of meeting practice. So we got to abide by a code of meeting practice, Councillor Bowden, please.
At the end of the day, Councillor Bowden, as you said, we've got to go out and consult and get a representative. But I think this Councillor Palmer's motion is at least we're moving forward, and we can see it'd be good to have someone from the Indigenous people on our development committee and for their advice. And we'll certainly be seeking it. And there's going to be a lot of developments that we'll need to seek it. So, as we said, we can change committees as we go along. If we feel that this one's not, it doesn't work this way, we can change it. So, I think at least we've got the Indigenous people involved to start with. So, thank you.
Just a rhetorical question. How have we lasted the last 120 years without the representatives?
Sorry, what was that again, Councillor Kelly?
Doesn't require an answer, Mr. Mayor. Before we go into closed council, Mr. Mayor, there's a late report on the council meeting, council workshop schedule, which I mean, the meetings, the council meeting dates are as per our decision, and we can, of course, have more or less workshop schedules and as required. But it's really a guide that we would have those at least. We'll certainly have other workshops and as required.
I've got no problem. Oh, yeah, excuse me. Yep.
Only question.
Dates conflict, yeah. Conflict.
The only question I had is below is the proposed council workshops. What time are they on? Are they on at 6 o'clock or?
Well, I guess whatever time suits council. It's irrelevant to us. 6 o'clock is it's up to the councillors. But
I've got no issue with that.
The one on November 6th is Melbourne Cup Day. I don't know if
that's all the better.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, may I suggest with the workshops that there is specific matters to be discussed at the workshops just to keep us all on track?
Yeah.
There'll be agendas for workshops. And,
just may I through the chair, we have a bus now. Some of these meetings in some of the other towns, instead of just Cootamundra or Gundagai, we've got Stockinbingle, Matamar, Edginbilly, Tumbalong. They've all got halls and stuff. Can we look to be sort of going out there as well, or do we have to have them in Cootamundra and Gundagai?
Through Mr. Mayor, it's very hard to live stream them in those places. That's all. You certainly have some of your workshops there and that sort of thing if you wanted to. No worries about that.
I think having workshops, see, it's more workshops. It's the councillors and the council staff, and it's not.
I see no benefit in going to the villages for council workshops.
So it's very difficult for a council meeting to be streamed. And
Mr. Mayor, it may be that to encourage involvement with the broader community, that there is just maybe a general meeting or an information night, and I think we have discussed that before. So not specifically the meeting, nor specifically the workshop. So just an information session.
We actually try and attend some of their progress meetings in those villages, and I've done a number of them. so far, and the staff certainly do. But I know Grace does, and Chris does, and I do. So.
Well, we got a recommendation there. Someone like to move that way?
Yes, I would.
Move councillor Nicholson, second to councillor Kelly, all in favour?
Aye.
Right, we'll have a motion to move into closed committee.
Do you want to do the traffic committee before you go?
We have no.
We could deal with the traffic committee minutes, Mr. Mayor. They were tabled late. There was a meeting last Friday, I think. I don't think there's any. Work should have been on the table, I think. Traffic committee minutes.
You got them?
I've probably got yours as well.
I haven't got any.
I have too.
Well, we'll go all of these first. Don't deal with this now.
Yeah.
Well, before we go into closed committee, we'll got the local area traffic committee meeting minutes. A late item. I just got mine. So.
Through the mayor, they were tabled late this afternoon. The meeting took place on Friday, and the minutes were done this afternoon.
Just a point of order. Do we live stream this part? Okay.
Yeah, you want to take down, Phil?
There were a number of items on the traffic committee. Councillor Sheen chaired the traffic committee. There's a number of recommendations there. A lot of the recommendations about us going away and doing some more work and bringing some work back to the traffic committee. I don't believe there's anything on there that is controversial or is going to cause too many dramas. But you do need to adopt the recommendations one by one.
So we've got the recommendation here. The first one. Extension of the speed zones, Pickerington Road east of Florence Street intersection. All read the recommendation. Someone want to move that way? Move councillor Kelly, second to councillor Graham. All in favour. The next one is 1-2 subject parking concerns Adams Street, Cootamundra between Hay and Murray Streets. Recommendation there. If there's no comment, someone like to move? Move councillor Palmer, second to councillor Phillips. All in favour. Carried. Recommendation 1-3, rural school bus stop Nanangrow and Parsons Creek Road intersection. Move councillor Graham, seconded councillor Phillips. All in favour. Carried. 1-4, subject extension of the speed zone Gundagai Road east of Nash's Lane. You got a recommendation there? It's Nash's Lane. Moved councillor Phillips, second councillor Kelly. All in favour? Carried.
There is one item in general business that councillor Sheen mentioned earlier, that currently the former Cootamundra Council had some procedures around not putting up barricades on the causeways that get flooded in town, and there were some concerns raised by the local police that they believe it's a requirement of council. We certainly do have some responsibilities under the Roads Act and the authority to close roads, and it was thought by the emergency services that we should be a bit more proactive in those measures and potentially change the way that we do things to make sure that we go and close the roads under our authority. So I don't know whether you want to go away and we'll put a procedure together, or whether you want to debate that at all, or are you happy for council staff to be closing roads when we think they need to be closed? Or are we happy to let our on-call people?
Well, I think we would do that under delegated authority, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Phil.
Through the chair, if I may, I know in the past in Cootamundra, the idea was that people should be driving to the conditions, and I know that council staff were directed to put barricades up when they got there, but if the feeling was that if we have a downpour in the middle of the night and council staff aren't available to put
the barricade's up and someone drives into the creek, are we liable because we haven't got there yet to put them up? And I think that's why we erred on when business started tomorrow. If the creeks were up, we'd put them in place. But so as soon as it rains at night, do you have crews out running around closing? But and they're all the problems. So maybe some sort of policy or something brought back to a further meeting might be good. How we manage it.
Yeah, that's through the chair. That's what we sort of discussed, and that's what the police were reiterating, that if something happens, an incident, then you're drawing emergency staff away from situations that are critical in those times. So if there is a wet event and the forecast is that those causeways are going to go under, close them. Proactive.
Through the chair. If somebody could clarify, whose responsibility is it to close the causeways? I was under the impression that that's now come under SES control.
No, that's a council, Mr. Mayor. That's the council. As I understand it, the SES volunteered their services to do that, but ultimately it's council's responsibility.
Councillor Kelly.
Just through the chair, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick note on those road closures. As you know, I was down sandbagging on Friday and helping with the floods with my position with the RFS on Saturday. Where the Hobble Street was closed, the closed signs were right at the causeway, and we actually went and moved them back up to the roundabout. Only big problem being when traffic's coming in Gundagai Road and turn left to go down Hobble Street, the B doubles and stuff have got down that way, and they're at the creek and they can't get through. And there was some couple of dramas with trucks, B doubles and even normal steaming trailers having to reverse back up again around that roundabout to get out. So we actually took it upon ourselves and we moved those signs right to the edge of Hobble Street. Can I just, for council's information, if that does happen again, can we please have those closed right at the roundabout?
Yes, certainly. We actually rectified some of those situations. They were put in place by well-meaning SES personnel, and they did perhaps put some in the wrong place for sure. But that we'll be watching that. We got some fairly good feedback about that.
Oh, we had to come down to the station. Truck drivers complaining.
Through the chair, I would think that down the track that hopefully we would be able to have some lights that are similar to where we lost a young girl out on the back Gundagai Road, so that once that started to flood, it would flash. You come along Hobble Street and you look along Hobble Street, you think, yeah, that's fine. When you come to that down, all of a sudden there's water. There was a group that came in with a lot of low sports cars, and it was probably 12 months later, a guy came in to my shop and he asked if the road was flooded. His wife was petrified because they had actually come across, came down and all of a sudden hit the skids and stopped just before the water. And she was, totally petrified. So you come in along Hobble Street, you don't see anything, okay? Got it at Gundagai, down in those. Got it out here on the old Gundagai Road. Thompson Street, probably, that's another one that could be done. But yeah, they are dangerous. Unless you are a local, you've got no idea. Coming into town and Hobble Street being the bypass, you're coming around there, you've got no hope at all. So yeah, so I'd just like to put that in consideration because I'll be bringing that up down the track. Thank you.
Just through the chair, I know Phil was making submissions or whatever for the bridge in Hobble Street anyway. We were going to try to get some funding for it after the Cootamundra Street was done, or someone was going to. We discussed it last meeting.
I think it was on the agenda for when grants and
money. Yeah, when grants come out, we'll get that bridge put across in Hobble Street anyway, and that'll negate a lot of their problems. And then, even a 5-year plan, I'd love to see probably to alleviate a lot of this. Even Thompson Street closed off like Only Street is, and a bridge put across Pool Street near the school. That's all the bridges and causeways taken out.
Just through the chair, just Just on that, councillor Kelly, like the last paragraph there, it's actually the southern part of Hovell Street is not a state road because technically the state road's a highway up to the roundabout, then back out to the other roundabout, then the northern part of Hovell Street. But we've noted that RMS advise to raise the concerns through the current corridor strategy being undertaken that look at that southern end of Hovell Street as a state road.
Just might mean someone else can fund it instead of us.
Right. Well, we're going to move, someone to move, we're going close committee. Move councillor Phillips, second to councillor Palmer. All in favour, carried.
That
won't be live streamed.
Our live stream will be now switched off.
That's right, and it won't report your findings back to open council either because it's switched off, it's gone.